Okay, good day everyone. My name is Lekwa Gabriel, and today I want to talk about how where Africa is lacking in in the place of technology. So today I'll be talking about so many deep truths and many areas that we can use to change the world from Africa here. So I currently reside in Nigeria, and Nigeria is a wonderful nation full of opportunities and full of a lot of talents is in Nigeria. So first of all, in this speech, I would first outline everything, and I'll lay it bare for you guys to see and understand that this is where Africa is, and this is where Africa needs to be to actually be a part of the global ecosystem in the area of technology and to rise in the area of technology. This is where Africa needs to be. So first of all, let's consider um, our internet. First of all, Africa still has one of the lowest broadband penetration rates in the world. Many regions are still on 3G, while the world is moving to 4G and 5G and 6G. I'm sure some people have not heard of 6G. 6G is one of Nvidia's new projects. So we can see here that even though we have big undersea cables and like ASC and WACS and all, we are still behind in terms of connectivity. Here, especially in Nigeria, we have 5G and we have strong internet access, but there are still areas in Africa that don't have this same internet access. We don't have this internet access that is connected everywhere across the nation. And we know that there are many factors that have actually slowed down the growth of Africa's tech sector. But this is definitely an area that we have to consider. Now, I'll mention so many things that for you to consider as I go further in this video. Another area you want to consider is cloud computing. Cloud computing. Africa does not have even enough data centers. We don't even have one third of the data centers we need to build technology globally. We don't have we don't have AI farms, we don't have compute labs or compute farms. Most of the computing that Africa does, and Africa is one of the biggest one of the biggest customers of AWS, Google Cloud. We are the customers of these foreign compute companies. We are their biggest customers. So one of the biggest things that Africa lacks currently now, because our Web 2 growth was not as steady, or let's say as fast as our Web 3 growth. Africa grew with blockchain technology faster than Africa embraced the internet. The internet did not really reach Africa so fast and so well the way blockchain technology reached Africa. So that's why Web 3 is one of the easiest thing that anyone can adopt and get into here from Africa, because Web 3 focuses on the individual, like I said in my last video. But here in Africa, we lack the infrastructure for the internet. Internet infrastructure is very, very important, and we lack it completely. And the fun and the thing is, you hardly see startups that are going after internet infrastructure, because they feel that the internet infrastructure can only be built with a certain level of advancement. Now, it is true that to build internet infrastructure, you need a certain level of standard and professionals, which in reality Africa lacks many of these standards. So when you consider countries like the US, that they are not lacking in engineers or devs, it is very easy for them to build internet infrastructure, data infrastructure, um, cloud services, data services, storage services. Now, these are the skeleton. This is the skeleton of the internet infrastructure, computing power. Africa does not have the capacity and even the mindset or or even the thinking to go after this kind of infrastructure. Currently, we are still trying to ride on the Web2 wave when we are supposed to be riding above it. You see, the problem of Africa is that we are always looking for quick gains. The anything we are doing, we are not thinking ahead. In Europe and other continents like America, Australia, startup investors invest in ambition, they invest in the future, they invest in power bringing projects. They don't invest in profit bringing projects. Yes, a project can bring profits, but a project should bring power as much as it brings profits. Now let me explain. Investing and building internet infrastructure shifts the global attention from other nations to Africa. If you were to build internet infrastructure here in Africa, it shifts the attention and the dependency of other nations here in Africa. So funny enough, Africa is not thinking ahead to build. We are thinking behind. And I'm going to say something very real here. For us to leap and build into the future, we need to build to sustain the global economy. How did the US grow? How did other nations grow? How did they become the internet giants? How did they become tech giants? They built the infrastructure that the world would ride on to get into the next stage. Now, to build the internet infrastructure, you need to build for the globe. You need to build the kind of infrastructure that the globe can depend on and grow. This is where many African startups fail. We are not building for the infrastructure of the globe. We are building for the infrastructure of our own continent only, not knowing that it is when you build products that will sustain the globe, that is when it will attract the necessary capital, the necessary talents, and the investment needed to develop Africa. A competence project is a project that the whole nation, the whole world is dependent on. Now let's consider ChatGPT. ChatGPT is making money not just because they are in the US, because they serve literally almost every nation in the world. Google is serving Africa, serving so many continents, not every continent because they are not serving China. So you can see that one of the reasons why there is a tech boom in any nation is because they have learned to create global products that will serve the whole nation. But mostly here in Africa, we don't even create global products. We are creating products that will only serve for a particular region or personal needs. Going ahead of the world is the only way to build a continent or a nation that is far behind. To confront, you need to go ahead. Okay, once again, my name is Lekwa Gabriel, and I'm from the future. I'm from the future, and I came to bring you to a certain place. Okay, let's continue. So, for Africa to actually grow, we need to start building products that will draw the attention and the dependency of other nations to Africa, for them to depend on the tech infrastructure in Africa. For that, we need to be competent and build products that are very competent. This is the difference. Once Africa can now build global products that are different and competent enough to make other nations rely on Africa's products, then there will be and they'll will be able to have equal grounds with other continents and other nations. So we have the resources, we have everything, but our thinking needs to change. Okay. Um. So I think in my next video, I'll continue more on this. But before I go, I'll speak more on infrastructure. Now, the Web2 infrastructure is very important in building a nation. Let's look at the most powerful nation in the world and consider their tech infrastructure. Now, in the US, startups are not just they're not just a culture, they are a way of life. The average US citizen wants to build a startup, wants to get his company funded, his or her company funded, and whatever they are building, they want to build it, they want to be ambitious, they want to go so far, they want to build something that's going to be amazing, an amazing product. Now, that startup fire has spread to every part of the nation, such a way that every young person is either going to build a startup or going to help a startup grow. That's the way the nation has been designed. So why would they not have some of the most powerful resources on the planet? Because building and innovating has become a culture. And this is something that Africa needs to understand. Moving forward, in order to build a certain kind of tech structure here in Africa, we need to embrace innovation as a culture, not something that one person does and you leave it for that person. Innovation is a culture. We need to open every single sector for innovation. Open every single sector and make it in such a way that everybody is going towards the future. So there are certain structures that need to be built here in Africa for us to actually rise and set the templates for the future. One of them is the tech infrastructure. Now we need to stop building only financial ecosystems and focus on building internet infrastructure as much as we are building financial ecosystems. And now we should come back and think from a more stronger perspective. What kind of startups what kind of startups do African does African ecosystems need now? So when we start thinking what is needed now, we should be able to concede. It's more like putting power under control. When energy and passion and effort is redirected to the right place, it will be able to create a serious ripple effect, a very powerful effect that can change the world. Now, when we turn our efforts, instead of shifting and tilting all our global startups to just go out there, become good, make a name, and maybe just come back, we need to turn the efforts and tilt all our global startups to making the African ecosystem grow. How can we build startups that will develop the internal African ecosystem? How can we build startups that will make building tech startups a culture in Africa? How can we build startups that will encourage investors to be able to invest? How can we change the mindset of our investors? How can we come together to make sure that the African tech ecosystem is the most advanced in the world? We need to make the African tech ecosystem a culture. We need to make startups a culture here in Africa. We need to make innovation and deep tech. We're not talking about startups that just come to service. There are startups that come to service and there are startups that are foundational. We should start building foundational products like producing chips and producing even the most smallest components. We have to go back to the foundations of technology and start building from the foundations. We need the foundations in Africa if we are going to leap into the future. So I don't want to make this video too long. Please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching this video. I will explain more on these things in my next video. Thank you so much.